Hi everyone, Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle.
Hello.
And this is February's book of the month, which is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. Um,
We have changed gears completely,
yes,
and it's
absolutely.
been so fun.
So fun. The cover's gorgeous. It just got re-released from a traditional publisher. And yeah, it's super fun. So this is fantasy, it's funny, there's obviously a lot of action, a little bit of gore. But yeah, it was great. So we start with our heroine, Cinnamon, who is amidst a village festival celebrating this thing called the Hero's Call. The goddess Myva chooses heroes every 15 years to help keep the gate closed that seals the monsters and demons out. And it's considered a great honor, to be chosen. And Cinnamon wants nothing to do with that.
Cinnamon, I feel like Cinnamon is a very reasonable heroine. She
Absolutely.
is like, I am not interested in going on any adventurous quest that might mean I don't get to come home.
Yep. None of
Also,
it.
she's gonna just like have wine and celebrate. Apparently, the girl who did get chosen
Yeah.
was real
Very
bratty
excited.
about it, very
Yeah.
excited, also wanted a pink sword, very specific needs, and everyone's like happy for her and also happy that she will be
Also happy she'll be
departing.
gone, and also happy that they aren't the one to get picked, so everybody's partying hard, and Cinnamon is quite drunk. So she goes to see her friend Bree, who runs the cheese stand, which is perfect. And
Also, like, I think it's hilarious that she is like, yeah, Bree's mom thought she was real cute naming her kids after. However, she is named Cinnamon and she is a spice trader's
Mhm,
child, and her brother is like cumin.
cumin
Like,
and
it's a
chili or
it's
something.
like clearly this is not.
Clearly, this is the theme. And so she goes to talk to her and is trying to convince her to come party, but she's still working, and she's like, "You go home, you're drunk," basically, like, "We'll do this tomorrow when I'm off." And they both currently have pink hair. They decided since they didn't get picked that it was like time to have pink hair. Um, and so she's like, "Oh, fine." And just as she's about to leave, there's like an earth-shaking boom, and like a dust cloud appears in the distance, like near her family's farm, and she's like, "What the
Oh
heck?"
shoot. But she's like, I think our farm will be okay even if that thing landed nearby, but whatever. I guess I should go home
Yeah.
just in case.
So she starts walking home. It's dark, of course. She's just got like a torch. Um, and this bandit jumps out in the road to try to rob her.
She is so like eye rolly. Even though she's drunk, she's like,
It's
oh
like, "Oh,
no.
kid, no." So it turns out it's this, like, local delinquent who's a family of local delinquents, and she's like, "Get out of here, kid."
She does not, it doesn't take her long to
No.
know what is like who it is. And then
Yeah.
he's like, give me your money. And she's like, what's wrong with you? We're farmers here. Like, no one has
I don't have
money.
any money.
And he's like, give me your cloak. And she's like, you can't wear this cloak. This is a
Right,
lady's
"You see
cloak.
these sunflowers? You're gonna wear this?" Yeah.
She I mean, it is the funniest, most like just like the and she keeps like, your mask is falling down.
Yeah.
Like, I
And
know who
then she
you
says
are.
his name to him, and he's like, "Oh, no," and basically starts running, and she takes off after him. So she's running through the fields and stuff, she loses him, but she finds this man who's, like, partially buried in a landslide, which is clearly what the noise was that they heard. Uh,
She's just like, "Are you okay, sir?" And when she helps him sit up, she's like, "Oh dear, he is very
big.
tall and handsome?" Question mark. Like, we're
And she's like, "He's very handsome," and then he kinda looks at her and he's like he says a little bit to her that is sort of confusing, and then he says very clearly, "Run." And she's
he's
like,
real groggy, and he says something like, if I guess he says something like about how it's like bad manners to
"Bad
like
form."
hurt someone that just
They're
saved you or something like
yeah,
something, and
"You
she's
hurt to
just like,
hurt your
"What's
rescuer."
happening?" And he's like, "You should run now." And she's just like, "What?" And he's like, "Run."
So
And
he starts
then
transforming into a demon. These horns grow, his eyes get crazy, and so, of course, she does
she
run.
runs, and
And
she's running
luckily
through like a cinnamon field of
yeah,
or field of like cinnamon trees that are on her way. So she is trying to like bat at him because
well,
he is
and
trying to catch
she's
her.
luckily it's her land, so she knows this maze, she's in great shape. And she knows he's not gonna be able to find her because she, or that's what she's thinking in her head. So she's running. Finally, she doesn't hear him anymore. She's really close to her parents' house and she thinks she's in the clear.
But then
He pops out right in front of her.
and she smacks him with the cinnamon, and
She
he's like,
with a
"Whew,"
branch of a cinnamon tree and just bashes him, and it, like, disorients him, and then
and
she, like,
she runs.
runs inside and locks the door and, like, pushes the
Starts
table and,
barricading.
like,
Her family's like, "How drunk are you exactly?" And she's like, "There is a demon out there," and they are like,
go to
"You
bed.
go to sleep." Like this is no.
And, of course, she's up all night looking out the window and stuff because she knows what she saw. She's like, "I'm not that drunk," right? And so she finally crashes briefly before her brother comes and wakes her up for family breakfast. Her dad has told her 2 brothers they want, them to take her to the temple to ask Myva for protection since she apparently had a demon following her last night.
Just in
And
case. No one 100% believes
right,
her, but what's the harm
never
in
know. Yeah,
asking?
better safe than sorry, right? So midway through breakfast, she's talking about the demon and they're like, "What did it look like?" And he's like this," he says from the kitchen window. It's
Yeah.
just
He just like pops up.
and then he
She
comes in the door, like, no invitation, no nothing, like, he wants to know what those sticks are that she hit him with last night. That's his
because they
first
got up
question.
his nose, but then all of a sudden he could think clearly.
Yeah, for the first time in he doesn't even know how long. His name is Fallon Ozul. He tells them that their goddess, Myva, is actually like an undead sorcerer who has all this power and gets more power from all these people, like, worshiping her, basically.
Yeah, and basically
Um,
those quests that they go on are actually like helping her to like keep the creatures captive, and like she
and
uses
her
them
magic
to like
is what's
fuel
making the creature
her.
crazy. Like, otherwise, they're just perfectly rational, like him talking, you know, they're basically just kind of like a different species. They're not these like mindless beasts, which is what they've been turned into by this dark magic. And so everybody is like, jaw on the ground, like nobody knows what to make of this
Well,
whole
like the brother tries to attack him kind of, even though he's being very rational and normal, and then he's like, "Well, I guess I better protect myself." And Cinnamon's like, "You stop, stop, stop. Everybody stop." And he's just kind of like, clearly here's the situation, like this lady that you think is a goddess is not a goddess.
needs to be.
Also we need to like stop her, and you definitely are the person for the job. And she's like, I do not want, and no, I reject this.
No, thank you.
And
No,
he
thank
is
you.
like, I
Like, I
mean,
mean, yes, though.
and he's very kind of like, I mean, if you don't, I will kill all these people that you care about. Okay.
Yep,
And she
pretty
is just
much.
like,
He's
okay,
like,
okay.
damn it. So, basically, he needs her to throw he's like, "It's very easy. I just need you to throw this amulet into the temple. Stuff will start to go crazy. Run in there and grab her chalice and break it, and then she'll be
And
dead."
the
That's like
chalice has a piece, or has her heart in it. And
right,
so if you can destroy her heart, then that will like get rid of her,
right.
and
All her
all
power will
of
be gone.
her power will.
And so she's like, "Ugh, fine." So she goes with Fallon, um, and she throws I guess it's like the next morning or whatever. She throws the amulet into the temple. Turns out he was right. All this crazy stuff starts happening. These like goo monsters start climbing out of the chalice and like trying to stop her from breaking it. And she does manage
It's
to,
harder to break than she thought too.
yeah,
So she's
her
like, oh
really
shoot, like,
good. And she has a hammer, I guess, and she hits it and it like cracks, but it doesn't break. And so she has to keep on. And of course, this thing is like trying to stop her. It's like grabbing her and hurting her. And so she finally does smash the cup. And the gross undead thing that had a hold of her basically like explodes along with the temple. And she and Fallon like run out. And she's like, "Yes, we're done. Like, good luck with the other 3. Like, I'm out." Right. And he's like,
the
"Wait,
other
what?"
three went. Pause.
He's like, "Listen, yeah, so we're gonna need to go destroy those too." It reminded me of that scene from Office Space where the boss is like, "I'm gonna need you to come in on Saturday." And it's like, he's like, I know I said only the one, but turns out You have to come with me to get to these other 3.
And she's just like, I don't see why I have to. And he's just like, well, I am a demon. And if I go in there, I will be under her influence.
Right.
Therefore,
And I'll be
a
betrayed
human
again.
has to be the one that goes in. And she is like, fine.
Oh, yeah. So she's like, "First of all, I'm tired. I'm going home to bed and we'll leave tomorrow." So the next day, they're arguing because she's packing like a whole wagon, like to go on a trip, as if they would if they were like going somewhere to sell spices and stuff. And she's like, I had to remind him, like, I'm not a demon. I can't just heal. Like, I need things and stuff. Like, what if something happens? Like, So he's finally
Also,
like,
she
oh,
is
fine.
bringing all her spices,
Yeah.
and he's just like, we don't need all that stuff. And she's like, first of all, we need all the cinnamon. And
Yeah.
secondly,
Cause I got to
if
make
we're
sure
gonna
you stay
cook,
sane.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, and if we're gonna cook, then I need stuff. Like I have needs, and we're bringing the cart anyway, so we might as well.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not going on this damn quest empty handed, basically. And so, Bree is there, her friend, and she's kind of watching the byplay between them. And finally, he like walks off, and she's like, "Y'all need to bone." Cinnamon is like, "No, ma'am. Like, no, that's definitely not happening. Definitely, it's gonna happen." And so, Cinnamon is nervous because she had a big love of adventure her whole life, and then 4 years ago, her younger sister Cherry, they were out by the bayou
Adventuring.
adventuring, and her sister got snatched up by something and disappeared forever.
So obviously she has a lot of guilt about that, and also does not want to risk that something like that might happen again.
Right.
In the process too, like she had an ex-boyfriend who, when she didn't want to be
Adventure.
adventurous, he was like, well, I don't like you, I don't want that anymore.
Yeah,
Um, and so she, like, those are her big backstory, like,
right. Her
wounds,
demons
I
that
guess.
are her personal demons, not including Fallon. And so her family is very like fretting about what's happening, but she's finally ready to go. So on the edge of town, she says her goodbyes to her family, and then they all kind of walk off, and she and Bree are the only 2 that are left, and they're saying goodbye when
They're
the
supposed to be meeting Fallon like at the edge of town,
yeah,
basically. He's going around so that she doesn't like walk traipse through town with the demon.
with the demon, yeah. So the delinquent from the night before shows up with his older brother.
And the older brother is like, you scared my baby sibling. You need to apologize. And she's like,
She's like, "Did he tell you he tried to rob me?" Like, "No, sir. I'm apologizing to no one." And so they fight and,
she like throws an apple at him, but then
and hits him in
he
the head.
smacks her.
He backhands her, and Fallon pops up out of nowhere, and he really did not like that. He breaks the older brother's arm. Huckabee is their last name, all these little hellions,
He is
and is about
also
to kill
like,
him.
yeah, he's like, that's the beginnings of what he has in store is the
Yeah.
broken arm. That
Uh-huh.
he is like, I'm gonna tear you limb from limb, and it's like, oh shoot, like for real.
Yeah, and Cinnamon is like, "Okay, woo woo. Like, yes, he hit me, but like we've been fighting since we were kids. Like, I'm okay. Like, you already broke his arm, so let's be done now." And he's like, "Fine."
She is like, we do not kill people, and he's like, I
Why?
beg to differ. I feel like we should though,
He's like,
and
"Clearly you guys
it's
are not
really
friends. Why do you care?" Like, he doesn't
funny. That whole conversation is funny because Huckabee is a dummy, and like it's like he's arguing with Cinnamon, even though Cinnamon is trying to save his life. And she's like, you should shut up.
shut up now. Yeah, take your broken arm and go away. So, and also during this whole event, he calls her Rabbit, which is very cute.
I
And
love a
so they
nickname.
finally get on the road. They're traveling through the, like, endless bayou. It's like a 5-day journey to the eastern town. She lives in the south, I think they said, and they're going to the eastern town. So she's been kind of silent since they left, and he finally says, "What is it?" And so she kind of explains, like, "You nearly ripped off somebody's arm right in front of me. Like, I'm just, like,
I need
trying
a
to
moment.
process." And he says, "Oh." Like, it never occurred to him that that would be a problem for her, which is hilarious. And so
Mhm.
he does agree at that point not to harm any more humans as long as they listen and don't get in the way of what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so until this task is done, you are mine, he says to her. And so she doesn't like that she likes that, but
No, but she does, and I liked it too.
so they stop to camp for the night and she catches some crawfish for dinner. He is very unimpressed with her swamp spiders, as he called them.
Until he tastes them.
Until until he tastes them after she works her cooking magic. Um, so that's a very cute scene. And so they're still traveling through the bayou. Days pass, and he keeps doing stupid stuff to like scare her enough to have to sleep next to him, which she
Mhm.
doesn't realize that's what he's doing. But of course, you realize it as you're reading. Um, and then one night she wakes up to a bunch of fog and no Fallon, and she hears her sister Cherry's voice, and of course goes after it. She was like walking into a stream and she sees her sister and she's like beckoning her, you know? And then
The
she
sister
hears
and then she's like, "Oh, no, my sister's out there," and she's just like, "Oh, come help me get out of here. It's really cold." So she starts thinking like, "Oh my goodness, she must be freezing." Um,
it's so sad. And then she hears Rabbit stop. And she's like and he says, "That's not your sister." And she looks around and she
he's
sees
he's like, "Look behind her," and when she looks, there's like a big,
it's like
like, demon
an
dog.
ugly black dog is how she kinda describes it, this creature, and it grabs her and drags her
And it's
water.
like a tentacle of it, of like, I don't know what kind of, but
Yeah,
it's like a tentacle extension is leading to her sister. And
yeah,
so when she sees that, it's like the tentacle tries to grab her, and it does grab her and like yank her under the
drags her under.
water, and
And
she's just
she
like,
well, at first she thinks how this must be exactly what happened to her sister, which is
mhm.
horrifying because she's going through it now and she's like, like this is a nightmare. I like it makes her feel horrible all over again. And then finally its hold loosens and she swims to the surface to find the thing like impaled on Fallon's sword. He carries her back to camp. She's embarrassed because she's like, I should have known better. It's been 4 years. Of course, that was not my sister. Like my sister is gone, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
and he's just like, that is this thing's magic. Like that's how it gets people. And there are people who have more experience with demons who have succumbed, like lots.
right.
You have nothing to feel bad about.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of
It's very
sweet.
sweet, and he so her braids, she had braids and they're all ruined and mucky, and so he sits there and, like, undoes all of her braids for her.
And she's like, "What are you doing to my hair?" And he's like, "It's full of like swamp muck. Like
Like,
you're
"You're not
gonna
gonna be
want to
able to get
wash
it clean
that."
like this." Yeah, and so while he's doing that, she cries, and she tells him about her sister, and everything that
How she
happened.
was so brave, and I mean, I was just like,
Yeah,
"Oh."
it was very sad, and so after she's cried out, they go bathe in the water together, and he washes her hair, and then she spies a gator coming, and she just, like, confidently kills it, clearly not her first rodeo with a gator living near the bayou.
The way
She's like,
it's
"Oh,
like
we're
it's
gonna
a
eat good."
log behind, and I'm like, "A
A
log," and then when she
floating
kills it, I'm
log.
like, "Oh."
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she just kills it, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna eat good tonight, right?" And he is so turned on by the way she just casually, like, killed this alligator.
I mean, he's like, "Clearly, I'm gonna marry you at the end of
Right,
this." And
obviously, at the
she's
end of this,
like,
we're getting
"Uh-uh."
married. "I will make you my wife after this is over." And she says, "That wasn't part of the deal, demon." And he says, "Then you shouldn't have been so horribly interesting."
I love that. I love that so much.
It was so hot. And so he leaves her to finish up and he like throws the gator like onto the shore. And meanwhile she's like a big old WTF because she's like, wait, this has gone a whole different way than how I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the end of chapter 5.
Well,
So
and he kissed her on the cheek too,
yeah, oh
and
yeah.
so he, like, kisses her and walks off, and she's like, "Uh-oh."
Oh no. Yeah. So things are getting exciting now, kids, and we will be back next week with the middle section.
See you then.